basically, we think that there is no contradiction to practice. When we say mindfulness of present moment, so when you say present moment, it's already past, right? So when you're mindful of something, then this something is already in the past, so it's no longer present moment. So it's also a remembering or recalling, even it's 1 second before that. So just like if we see the star, it may be 1 million years away, right? When the light reaches, it's already in the history. So we are actually watching history. We are not watching the present moment of the star. Okay, so we think that there is no contradiction. And the other thing is, our group is also say that in practice, when Sati means recalling, remembering, so basically we don't be like punish ourselves and say we are not mindful, right? Because if you are not mindful, then you mindful again, recall again, say that you are not mindful. So in the end, you mindful again, right? So mindful Sati practice is just recall, right? Just recall what you are going on. So if you are not remembering, you just recall again to remember. So that is, so basically it turns into a process of remembering. The other thing that we discuss about this mindfulness is, we think that it's also when we say Sati is remembering, then it actually can reinforce our memory. So basically when say we want to remember, we don't want to forget where we put the key, so we mindful about our action, where we put our key and reinforce our memory, right? So that is what we discuss, and mainly our conclusion, we take Sati as a process. So we think that it's a process, it's connected and continuous of past into present moment. So it's a process of remembering. I think that's all from our group.
Mindfulness is now a universal translation for the word Sati. So, I mean, if we translate it as remembrance, it will confuse people. So we try to stick to that rendering, the translation of Sati as mindfulness, but we have to qualify what we mean by mindfulness. You know, mindfulness is not present moment awareness. What is present moment awareness is actually your senses. Your senses are in the present. You can only see something that is right in front of you right now. Yeah, you can only hear when the vibrations hit your eardrums. You can only feel when something touches your body, your skin. That is in the present. But the awareness of hearing, the awareness of seeing, the awareness of a touch sensation, that comes immediately after it. That is actually, when you say you are mindful, it is the mind consciousness looking at what is happening to the senses. Yeah? And it's even more obvious when you look at your own thoughts. When you say that you are angry, you know, the anger has arisen first, and then you are right behind following it, and we are aware of the anger, right? So you are actually looking at the immediate past. Okay, so the Buddha was very specific when he used the word Sati. And the past can vary from the immediate past to a very distant past, many hundreds and thousands and aeons of lifetimes away. It is still using the same mental faculty of Sati. Right? But that's why in so many Buddhist terms, the Sati is found there. For example, Buddhanusati, thinking about the Buddha, recollecting the virtues of the Buddha. Even metta is a form of Sati. You know, if you remember Metta Sutta, Karaniya Metta Sutta, there's one line inside there which says, Etam satim aditeya brahmametam viharamidamahu. You know, if you resolve or determine on this Sati of metta, remembering to radiate loving kindness. So it's actually a remembrance, but because the past and the present is so difficult to define, is actually a very thin line between the past and the present, particularly the immediate past. Because the moment I say present, it's already past. Right? So that's why for modern meditation teachers, they tend to use present moment awareness for mindfulness. Yeah? But it's not so actually, it's an immediate past object. So if you restrict mindfulness to just the present moment awareness, that does not do justice to the word mindfulness, to the word sati, because it can cover a very wide range of applications, which we will talk about later in the course of our workshop. Okay, right. Can you pass the mic, please?
Just for your confirmation again. So present moment awareness is not sati.
Okay, good question. It depends on what you mean by present. Yeah, if it's present moment means immediate past, then it is sati. How present can you be? Like for example, in the seeing, in the seeing, that is present, but awareness of the seeing is the past, right? But the awareness itself is in the present. The awareness of the seeing is in the present.
But Bhante, is it not possible to be aware, let's say if your mind is so clear, you're aware of the immediate present, is that not just a possibility? That the awareness is of this particular thing?
It's just like you cannot use the thumb to touch your thumb. You cannot use your thumb to touch your thumb, can you? So
No.
the mind cannot see itself. What it sees is the mind before it, the nearest it can see. It's the moment of awareness, or the moment of consciousness behind it. You can see.
But let's say we are telling someone that present is the immediate past, then they say, why have a word called present? I mean, is that in the dictionary? Present is the immediate past. Can we get away with that?
No, actually, I'll come to it when we talk about the Pali words for the 3 times. So in the course of my research and my teaching of mindfulness to people and through my own practice, I've located 4 aspects of mindfulness or sati that is very helpful for our practice and our understanding of sati. I call that the 4 R's. Sati is awareness of a past object, whether it's an immediate past, intermediate past, or a distant past. It's still the past object. The first one is to remember. Second is to recollect. The third R is to remind. And the fourth R is to retrospect. Now I use the word retrospect here in a literal sense, just to get the R, because nowadays the word retrospect means to reflect on some things that you have done before. But the literal meaning of retrospect is to look back. Retro is back. Spect is to look. Okay? So to remember means, for example, in our Dhamma practice, remember while collecting information and listening to instructions. Okay, this is a very good example of immediate past. When you're listening to me, you are actually listening to sound, right? If you don't understand English, you don't know what it means. But if you understand English, your ear listens to sound, and then your mind will grasp that sound, take an image, take a sign, and interpret it. And then, if you don't put in the effort to remember, you won't know what I'm saying later on. When somebody asks you, what did Bhante talk about? It was a very good talk, but I don't know what he talked about. That happens very often. Okay, so you have to make a conscious effort, to remember the information that you are collecting, whether reading a book or whether listening to a Dhamma talk. The next one is, after you finish reading your book, after you finish listening to the Dhamma talk, when you get up from your seat, you must try to recollect the information that you had collected. Yeah, that's another form of remembering, recollection. And thirdly, you may have all the information and you may have a PhD, but if you don't remind yourself to put that into practice, also useless. Right or not? So the third R is to remind yourself to put the information that you have remembered and recollected into practice. Then the fourth R is to look back at how the mind relates to the 6 senses. 5 senses, and including the mind itself. And you cannot really be aware of the present moment when you have a thought, so an angry thought that arises. The moment you are aware of it, is already the past. It has arisen first, and then you are aware of it. But then, because it's so fast that you may think that I am being aware while I'm angry. So looking back at how the mind relates to the six senses is of utmost importance. Because the five senses actually, they gather data, bare data only. It's how the mind interprets the data that will determine your happiness or suffering. Right? So it's very important to look at how the mind relates to the six senses. Okay, enough of this. Let's go back to Anapana. I have to finish the Anapana in time for you to do your meditation before I go off for my lunch.